Call the meeting to order, and thanks to everyone for coming. It's not the most pleasant night out there, but I guess we'll survive. We haven't had to deal with much winter up to this point, so it's something we should be used to, I guess, which has always been in the past. And I mean, though we're partway through January, I wish everyone a happy new year and a healthy and happy rest of the year and a prosperous one, hopefully, for most people that can have a good rest of the year. So without further ado, I'll get into the meeting. Do you have any disclosures of pecuniary interests? Seeing none, thank you. Could I have an approval agenda as presented? Mayor Harrison, Ms. Simmons, any further questions, comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you. And could I have a approval of the minutes of January it says January 28th, January 18th to 24. I think that should be December, I believe. Anyway, well,
December 19th.
Yeah, December 19th. Any errors or omissions or questions regarding those minutes? Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Aaron and Mayor Harrison. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you. The public meetings are conducted as prescribed by Section 3413 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended for 2 zoning bylaw amendment applications affecting land in the Sydney Ward and 1 zoning bylaw amendment application affecting land in the Murray Ward. The meeting will be conducted in the following manner for each application. First, I'll identify the application being considered, and then I will ask planning staff to outline the application being considered, and then ask if there are any members of the public who have registered in advance to attend and participate in the meeting and have any questions or comments regarding each application. If there are no public comments or questions, I will then ask the committee if they have any questions or comments, and once the committee's questions have been addressed, the committee will consider and vote on each application. If you wish to provide comments, please state your name and address for the record prior to addressing the committee. This committee has been delegated the responsibility to conduct public meetings as prescribed under the Planning Act. A full report of the meeting's proceedings will be submitted to City Council on Wednesday, March the 6th, 2024. Council will make the decision on each stated application. Anyone other than the applicant who wishes to receive further notice of Council's decision on each application must submit a written request for the notice of Council's decision to the Director of Planning and Development Services. I will now ask the Director of Planning and Development Services, please advise the committee on how notice of these meetings were given. Brian, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Notice of the application has been considered this evening. We're given in keeping with the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended, by first-class mail on December 20th, 2024, and posting of signs on the subject properties on the same date.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll get right into the first public meeting of the evening, which is Staff Report 7.1, 24-090 PD, a zoning bylaw amendment application. The owner is Duvanco Homes, Inc. The agent is Watson Land Surveyors. The location is 287 Walbridge Road, and the file number is D09/S36/24. Ashley, would you like to address this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This rezoning is a condition of consent application B27/24, which was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on November 14th, 2024. Under the consent application, the Committee of Adjustment approved the severance of 330 square meters for the lot addition purposes and added to the parcel directly to the south, which was 267 Walbridge Road. This application proposes to rezone the subject lands from the rural residential RR zone to the rural residential exception RR-90 zone. The applicant has requested that the rural residential 90 zone permit a reduction in lot area from the 0.4 hectares required in the rural residential RR zone to 0.1945 hectares, and to recognize the reduction in front lot setback from 7.5 meters to 4 meters. The retained parcel that is zoned as rural residential zone would remain unchanged. So far, there have been no concerns from external agencies, staff, or the public. The application is consistent with the provincial policy statement the city's official plan and maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. This application is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anyone in attendance who, other than the applicant, would like to speak in favor of this application? Okay, seeing none, do we have anyone in opposition or have general questions regarding this application? Seeing none, committee, I would ask you to consider the recommendation, and you've just heard recommended by staff for approval. I would entertain a motion and any questions you might have. Moved by Mr. Edison, seconder. J.D. Brown, any questions regarding this? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. We now move to staff report 7.2, 24-091 PD, a zoning bylaw amendment. Application, the owner's Matthew Circurat, I hope I have not damaged the name. Location is 172 Marsh Point Lane. The file number is D09/S37/24. Katie, would you like to address this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the purpose of this zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone a small portion of the subject lands from the rural residential zone to the rural residential exception 89 zone. The subject property is currently developed with a single detached dwelling and several accessory structures. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing dwelling and reconstruct a new dwelling on a slightly modified footprint, which would be set closer to the Trent River. The minor relocation of the dwelling would provide the new dwelling with a more suitable setback from the existing private road, while still maintaining a 12.3 meter setback from the river. Ultimately, only a small portion of the property would be rezoned to the rural residential exception 89 zone, with the existing environmental protection and provincially significant wetland zones to remain unchanged. The rural residential exception 89 zone would include special provisions to recognize the reconstruction of the dwelling within the floodplain as well as on a private road. The exception zone would also recognize the proposed dwelling setbacks. The applicant has worked with Lower Trent Conservation Authority staff to obtain appropriate permits for the proposed works, and while the property is located within the floodplain, the proposed dwelling would be appropriately flood-proofed in accordance with Lower Trent's regulations. Overall, the application meets the general intent of the provincial planning statement, the city's official plan, and maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. This application is therefore recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you very much, Katie. Do we have anyone in attendance other than the applicant who wishes to speak in favor? Anyone in opposition or have general questions regarding this application? The applicant wish to speak? You certainly have. If there's any other concerns, I don't believe there was.
Yes,
Thank you for.
hello.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes, so I'm a neighbor. My name is Stephen Coulter. I own two properties on Marsh Point Lane. I happen to own the property adjacent to the application lands. I have no issues with the bylaw amendment. I do, however, have a bit of an issue with the setback off my property line. And as this is going to be a total reconstruction, I would like I would just like council to consider just maybe having a little more of a setback from the property line. You know, he's got all this land here, and it butted right up to the property line, especially seeing as he intends to add a second story onto it. It'll change the lot fairly significantly. So if that could be brought into consideration, we would certainly appreciate that. If the gazebo is a concern, I would submit to you that this is a 40-year-old post structure that really doesn't need to be there. So anyway, that's what I have to say, and I just wanted to go on record as for that. Thank you very much for your.
Okay, thank you very much for your attendance. Staff, maybe I could ask you in regards to the setback, and if it might have to have the conditions changed or something, but I'll leave it up to you for guidance here.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. That is an existing setback that they are maintaining. They would be adding the second story, but it would be up to the committee if you would like to change that setback to be in compliance with the rural residential zone provisions. However, I would note that Lower Trent has approved this permit, so there would be, I don't know what changes would be required on their part. Also, the existing dwelling right now, as it sits, is quite close to the EP zone setback, so we would be encroaching on that setback. So we'd want to maintain that likely. That's why the dwelling is going to be in that same place.
Okay. Brian, you wish to comment on that, please?
Yes, through Mr. Chair, and while we haven't done any technical analysis on that, I think one of the more pressing things of this application is the fact that it is in the floodplain. And you'll see, obviously, it shows on the sketch there, they have the Marsh Point Lane right-of-way that runs to the north of the existing building. And if you move it further, which would be further to the east, you're actually getting closer to the water because the property does somewhat narrow down. And Ms. Whitehead can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the setback that's been approved with the Conservation Authority is based on these dimensions. So that would take us back to a further analysis, I would think.
Okay. Mr. Kohler, do you comfortable with the reasoning for that, sir? Hear anything? Yeah. Mr. Kohler, are you there? Can you hear us?
My apologies, I didn't unmute myself.
Okay.
I understand your reasoning, and I know for it, and I would much rather that this project proceeded than did not, because as the house stands today, the owner rents it to very undesirable characters who change the character and the enjoyment of our road. So if it, just as being a good neighbor, if he could, as far as he can move it over from that property line, the better off I would feel, but I would prefer to have the project proceed than not to proceed.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for comments regarding this application? Okay, seeing none, committee, I would ask your consideration, and a mover and a second. Moved by Mayor Harrison, and second by Mr. Brown. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, as presented? Carried, thank you. We now move to item staff report 7.3, staff report 24-092 PD, zoning bylaw amendment application, and the owners Corey and John Christians. Location is 567 Downs Road. File number is D09/M38/24. Katie, would you like to comment on this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to satisfy a condition of consent application B20/24M, which was provisionally granted by the Ontario Land Tribunal on November 22nd, 2024. This application is required as the severed parcel does not meet the rural zone provisions and thus needs to be rezoned to the rural residential zone. The retained lands would remain in the rural zone with the environmentally sensitive area overlay zone also remaining unchanged as a result of this application. The zoning would bring the severed lot into conformity with the city's zoning bylaw, and further, the approval of this application would facilitate the development of the severed parcel with a residential use at a future time. Overall, the application meets the intent of the provincial planning statement, the city's official plan, and maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. This application is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anyone in attendance other than the applicant who wishes to speak in favor? Okay. Any in favor? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to come and give my support to this project. Oh, yeah. Joel Fox, 568 Fox Road. Yeah, I know the original contentious part of this, I think, was minimum distance separation. But, yeah, I'm just came as a dairy farmer to say that, I think the big concern of minimum distance separation, which would be like that the farm couldn't expand at a later date, is not relevant here. And as a dairy farmer, the other concerns that farmers generally have about minimum distance, it's just complaints. And anyways, I think there's a lot more pros to the project than the cons in terms of possible complaints, sort of thing. So anyways, I just wanted to come and give my support. And I have a habit of coming and recommending reading material. This time it'd be an article that I wrote in the Ontario Farmer newspaper, which is about why minimum distance separation laws are not good. So, yeah, anyways.
Thank you. Any other in favor? Other than applicant? Okay, opposition or general questions? Please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
Dan Kelsey, I'm 518 Downs Road, which is just across. It's more a comment or a question, I guess. I don't know how to formulate it, but last time the application has been denied because of safety. I would just like to appeal to the committee. It's hard to see here, but if you see a car coming fast there, especially in the winter, often coming from the, I don't know if it's the west or the east, but from the left on the map there, the car, if they go too fast, they will encroach on my property and go back on the road in the curve. All that to say that it's a very dangerous corner, and like I said at the last meeting, the house is at 518, 520, and 540. Because of inertia of a car coming this way, shouldn't have been allowed to build there. I'm thankful that I have my house there, but it's a dangerous corner. There's a lot of farm equipment coming there. There's a lot of mishaps in the winter, cars coming from this way on my property, and on this side I haven't seen it yet, but on this side I've seen it often. The speed limit is often not respected, very often not respected. So who's to say if a possible an accident can happen there? Yes. I don't dispute the bylaw of the zoning and all that, but I sure do reinstate that it's for safety purpose, this project shouldn't be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else for comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Committee, you have a recommendation before you, and it is for approval. I'd entertain a question or motion. Moved by Mr. Brown, seconder. Mr. Forsyth, any further questions from the committee? Ms. Simmons.
Sorry, I was trying to get through a whole meeting without a question. If safety is a concern, is there not other ways to approach the concern about the driving and the speed as opposed to building a residential lot? I wouldn't think that that would significantly change things.
Well, I don't know. We have a person here from Public Works. Would you like to comment on that? I know there's they are reviewed all these applications, and so Jeb, if you wish to speak to this, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I'll do my best here. From what I understand, I guess options have been considered or have been put forward to the applicant in this regard, and there are factors at work that will probably precipitate the need for an engineering assessment of the proposed location. I guess there's an interest in applying to the traffic committee to look at reducing the speed limit on there to strike a positive balance with all the factors involved here. But it sort of all begins with an entrance permit application to get the assessment underway that we will undergo in Public Works.
Okay, thank you very much. Brian, did you want to comment on that also, please?
Just to add. Sorry, just to add to those comments. So through the severance process, one of the early stages in the severance process is to review a potential lot or a proposed lot with respect to the ability to get a safe access point. Now, I think I'm right in saying, and Ms. Whitehead Mr. Couture can clarify this, but I believe that when our staff, Public Works staff, did that review, they did identify a location, and that's based on sight lines, traffic speed or traffic speed limits, and based on Highway Traffic Act specifications. So they did identify a specific location within the frontage of the proposed lot that would satisfy all of those conditions. We all understand in this committee hears it very often that unfortunately people don't necessarily drive to the speed limits and drive safely. However, those are the standards that we legally have to apply to things such as permit accesses. So there is been an identified location for a safe driveway. Obviously, if the developers at the point of time of development want to change that location, that would have to be reassessed. And as Mr. Couture said, it would have to go through a further analysis. But at this point in time, we are comfortable that there is a safe access point based on all the legal parameters.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. Does that help to answer some of your concerns and questions, sir?
You mentioned that the speed limit might not be respected, and I can confirm that it is not.
Yeah. And I believe our representative from engineering has said when the entrance permit is looked at, why certainly the engineering department, roads department looks at it to see which is the safest spot to put that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just to make
Mayor Harrison?
a couple of comments. I've lived in that area since '63, so I understand what you're saying. Just like the accident on number 2 highway, people are in a hurry, you're right. And they do tend to come down through there faster than they should, and as a result of that, things do occur. But I think we've done our homework well here, and I think the location and, the entranceway will certainly alleviate the issue that we're dealing with. So I appreciate the work staff has done, and as long as they keep the equipment on the road and not the cattle, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, then I'm going to ask the committee to consider the recommendation to approve. Mover and seconder, please. And any questions? Ms. Simmons? No. Move it? Okay. Seconder? Councilor O'Neill. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Your comments regarding the applications and staff reports have been recorded and will be forwarded to the members of council. Together with this meeting, the minutes of this meeting, council will make a decision to approve or refuse each stated application at the regularly scheduled council meeting of Wednesday, February 21st. And I noted earlier before it said March, and this one here is, there seems to be a little discrepancy in my mind, but anyway. Where did I see that? I know I read that earlier, but anyway, maybe it was the minutes. I'm getting it mixed up with the other, I think it is, but I just wanted to make sure so people knew when it was. Anyway, the council meeting of Wednesday, February 21st, 2025. And so now we'll move on to the public input portion. If anyone would like to come forward and have any questions or comments for any of the applications or anything else they would like to question. Seeing none, thank you. We move to item 9, presentations, we have none, delegations, we have none, and decision items, we have none. Now move into printed information. We have 12.1 monthly planning reports, A, B, zoning bylaw amendment tracking, building department monthly report, and 12.3, the committee, site plan committee minutes. Also, I would entertain a motion to approve them, and any questions, Mr. Edison, seconder. Councilor Makasovas, any questions regarding any of those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay. Move now to item 13, non-printed. We have none on requests for information, so I'll go around the table here. Start on my left, and none from Gerard. Mike? Zach? Ms. Simmons? I'm getting an easy go tonight. No? Councilor O'Neill? No? Mayor?
I just think I better retract my statement that accident's under investigation, so
Yeah. Okay.
I take that back.
Yep. All right.
But I do really, on behalf of the people I represent, thank our first responders for the work they do in responding to issues. And, they train regularly and they're well prepared. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So before I adjourn the meeting, any comments from staff, Brian, or anybody coming down the line there would like to make a comment, please?
Yeah, maybe if I can, I just wasn't planning this, but just as I was going through the printed information, just to draw the committee's attention to the year-end building stats. In January we get the full, we always do projections, as you know, throughout the year, and particularly in the last few years, the fluctuations around housing starts and housing permits has been a challenge. But just drawing the committee's attention to 2024 numbers year end, where we permitted almost 500 new residential units. That includes a significant number of apartment units with construction value of over $200 million, which is significantly higher than previous years. So definitely we are experiencing a lot of challenges in relation to home building, but our statistics are very strong. Thank you.
And Andrea and I have found where it said March the 6th, so it's not the other minutes that we're talking about. Okay, Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Director Jardine. There's supposed to be 3 apartment buildings on Appledene Drive, roughly about $60-some million. What's the progress on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Right now, they are amending their site plan, so we're working with their agents on doing that. Should be fairly shortly that application is complete, and then they would just be reapplying for new building permits. They have added a few units to each building.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Director Jardine. In terms of the 2024 numbers, especially for the residential, with the city having recently opened the development charges bylaw, do we have any estimate on if there was some 2025 project that were pulled forward before the development charge increase on December 1st? Is there any reason to suggest that 25 will be lower and that we just kind of moved some of that to the earlier year?
To Mr. Chair, I think that's probably a fair statement. There were definitely a number of permits that were submitted to the city prior to that fee change, but they were predominantly within the kind of lower density single family home type subdivision developments, and as you'll see by the statistics, those numbers are around the kind of mid 100s, so not a significant change in terms of the overall. I don't foresee that it will change dramatically what we're going to see in 2025, but also remember that while these numbers are high in 2024, I specifically mentioned it because of the significant increase in apartment style dwellings, and as we've talked about before at the committee, while those result in high apartment and unit numbers, they come under one project, so those numbers can change quite dramatically, because if we don't get a large apartment building, another one in 2025, our numbers will reflect the more traditional low density type development. And remembering that, going back to our development charge study, our average, so if we take the apartments out of the equation, our projected average is around 180 units per year. So even if you remove the apartments from this statistic, we're on track with our projections. But yeah, we might see some fluctuation. There may be a few numbers in here that under another circumstance would be 2025 projects, but not by a big proportion.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I guess I would like to thank staff and everybody for their attendance and coming out on such a nasty night, but at least we carry the business, keep the business going along. So without further ado, I'd entertain the hard motion now for an adjournment. Mr. Edison, is that a councillor card? Any debate or questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.